Welcome. We are here in Central Park in beautiful New York City talking about the idea space with the lovely
Elena.
Bradley.
So I'm going to ask you a couple questions, starting with what comes to mind when you hear the words idea space?
Idea space.
Idea space?
Well, I think of ideas like thoughts in my mind in a space where really your head.
I think about, I don't know, just my own mental model of the world. Like when I have ideas, there is like a little space in my brain when I'm thinking things out. I'm like putting things in certain places and envisioning things certain ways. So maybe that's the idea space.
Do you have any sort of meditation practice or do you do any sort of mindfulness in your day-to-day life?
Well, I tell myself I do, but I don't do it as often as I should. I do like meditation, though. Sometimes I'll sit here in the park. We're in Central Park today, and it's a good place to kind of just zone out, get that zen.
Yeah, I mean, I do like meditation, right? I have the Headspace app. So, the whole you like picture a thought as like a cloud and it passes by and it kind of arises and yeah.
And then when you do it, why do you do it and what do you get from doing it?
You know, with all social media and then work and everything that comes about it, all the thoughts running through your mind, it's nice to just sit down and just try to think about nothing. And then thinking that you're thinking about nothing and bringing yourself back, right? It's kind of like the exercise of it. It feels like I'm doing reps in my brain.
Yeah, it just helps me clear my mind. When I first started doing it, I was really invested in the whole clear your mind, don't have any thoughts, focus on, I don't know, your breathing, focus on the candle flame or whatever. And that is very good and healthy, I think. But over the last year or two, I've more just been allowing thoughts to arise.
If there was a theory of consciousness that was able to make mindfulness a little bit more concrete and a little bit more accessible to the people, what would you look for in a theory like that?
This is above my pay grade. So I would say that making it as easy as possible for folks to know, okay, this is good for you, right? I think it feels like a little bit like Fugazi sometimes for people, especially if you go back to my hometown and ask my grandparents to do this. But it's like the idea of, hey, this is actually really great for your brain. It's cleansing it, right? It's kind of detoxing you, but trying to figure out a way that makes it more palatable for people like me who would need somebody to break it down into simpler terms.
What?
Big questions here only.
I don't know how to answer that. Oh my gosh. I don't know. I guess, yeah. I took a class on consciousness when I was a senior in college. So I remember the one theory of, so that we talked about all these theories of consciousness, and the one I liked is the one theory that's consciousness is like a spotlight. So it's the spotlight that is kind of shining on the different parts of your brain and the things that are going on in your head. Consciousness is just the thing that's moving around your attention, and all that stuff is happening in the background anyway. It's just where you're pointing the spotlight to see what's happening.
And then what if there was a way where it's combined with science in a way where you can describe it using physics, right? What would kind of that speak? Would that speak to you, or how would this where does your mind go if I tell you there's a physics-based consciousness approach to consciousness, right?
You better make that physics real easy. Not all of us have passed physics class, I can tell you that, but it makes it interesting. And also, I think it helps back it up, makes it more credible, so to say. Oftentimes, I think of two different camps. I think of meditation, and then I also think of science, right? And why do they have to be binary? Why does it have to be ones and zeros? Why can't they be intertwined? So I would love for somebody to bridge that gap.
Ooh, another great question. Well, scientific theories have to be provable and falsifiable and observable in some way. So I don't really know if we have the technology to do that just yet. So there'd have to be some type of proof, scientific proof. And when I talk about the capital U universe, that is pretty unscientific thinking, which I think is perfectly fine. I think everyone is allowed to have unscientific thoughts. But it's not there's no metrics and proof and things that would back that up as a real theory that we should make real world decisions on, on a large scale. So For universe consciousness theory, yeah, there'd have to be some type of like, yeah, scientific proof means something very specific within the scientific method, like testable, observable, all of those things.
And what if I told you you're holding something in your hands that does all that?
I would be blown away. I would be.
Yeah, and I think that's the whole point of the idea space, which you're holding right here in your hand. It's got 200 plus pictures, which is great. So it makes all those physics terms easily digestible for the average reader. And it's a fun read at the end of the day. Like, what do you think of these pictures right now that as you're looking through them?
You know, you gave me this book and it felt heavy and I got intimidated. But now that I'm seeing that there's beautiful pictures in here, I'm like, this is more my speed.
And what do you think of the bubbles?
They are adorable. I like the bubbles, dude.
In the meantime, we have the idea space, which is a theory kind of like that does put that capital U into perspective in a way where the world that was once woo-woo is more kind of scientifically grounded.
Wow,
so that's kind of the premise of it.
Wait, maybe I will have to buy this book.